Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Crimson, and in this video this is going to be a little update of my Blood Angels Army showcase. So about a month or maybe 2 months ago I uploaded one of my army showcases for my Blood Angels, and this is kind of a not quite a part 2, but almost like a little bit of an update on it. So in the original Blood Angels video, I went through my entire army, and a lot of them were older units or units that only had 5 of a specific type, and so on like that. So I decided to kind of bolster my forces a little bit. I've gotten more of some of my favorite units. I've gotten some units that I wanted to try and use more, and I've gotten some new units altogether that I have for some of my other armies, but not my Blood Angels. So my Blood Angels are one of my favorite armies, definitely in the top 3 out of the 6. I really like them, and I'm not even that big a fan of Space Marines, to be honest. So with that out of the way, let's just dive right into it. So because this is a update on the original video, I'm not going to go in super in depth on who and what the Blood Angels are. If you are interested or would like to see more about either the army or the Blood Angels themselves, you can watch my original video, or you can watch a variety of incredible lore videos online. But to put it very briefly, the Blood Angels are the 9th Legion in the Imperium, at least during the Great Crusade, led by the Primarch Sanguinius, and come from the world of Baal. And they all inherited some of his traits, and one of these being that they drink blood. As well as when Sanguinius died, they got kind of corrupted by their gene seed and are now prone to falling into something called the Black Rage, which essentially just makes them lose all sense of stability and care for their own well-being, and just makes them suicidal in battle. They are that ferocious, and people who fall to the Black Rage join something called Death Company. And the reason I'm talking about Death Company is because that is a decent part of the updated models and new models that I got. So that's just the very brief rundown. Again, like I said, if you would like to know more, you can either watch the part 1 of this video, which I will link and I have already put a picture up, or you can go on YouTube and look up some lore videos. But let's get right into the models. So I think the most important ones to start with are the named characters. So in the original video, I had all of the old models of the named characters, those being Dante, Astaroth the Grim, Lamartes, and Mephiston. But since then, I have purchased and painted all of the new models for these characters, and oh my god, the new models are so much better. I'm very hesitant about buying new models for existing units that I already have, but trust me, these models are so worth it. So these are the 4 of them here. So we'll start with Dante. So this is the Dante model, if it will focus. So as you can see, he is a lot larger than he was in his previous one, and he has a much more dynamic pose, kind of about to jump and take off into the air on his jetpack. He has a melter pistol in one hand and a power axe in the other. Dante is known for his all-gold armor. However, I did decide just to paint his actual faceplate white, just to give it a little bit of definition, but that's just my personal choice. Next, we have the Martys. So the Martys is the leader of Death Company. Like I said, Death Company are the people who have fallen to the Black Rage and are beyond help. Once you fall to the Black Rage, there is no coming back. So he has armor that absolutely represents that. He has his staff in one hand. You can see his massive shoulder pad. That is a skull. His helmet is a skull. He has the Blood Angel's insignia on one of his shoulder pads with a pistol in the other. And yeah, he also has his jetpack. So definitely a really cool model to have, especially if you like playing with the Death Company units like I do. The Martys is a must-have. Next we have Astaroth the Grim. So this is him here, and I think this actually might be tied with Mephiston for the best glow-up in terms of the old models versus the new. So you can see that he has this massive wingspan. I don't know if it'll focus in, but he looks like someone who is dead. Basically a combination of corpse white skin mixed with the black streaks of decay and jet black hair. The new models have them in this armor that looks like muscle or exposed muscle. So on Astaroth, I painted it red just because I thought that would be fitting. You can see one of his more decorative shoulder pads and his massive black wings. That is a trait with the Blood Angels. Sanguinius, their Primarch and their Gene Father had wings, so some of the Blood Angels do eventually sprout wings. And finally, for the named characters, we have Mephiston. Sorry, one thing before we move on, one thing I forgot to say about Astaroth is the only person who has succumbed to the Black Rage and managed to come back with his sanity intact. And he is known throughout the region of trying to provide peace and comfort to those who have fallen to the Black Legion. So despite, the Black Rage, not the Black Legion, that's a whole other thing. So despite his grim demeanor and his name literally being the Grim, he does seem to have a compassionate side, which I really like. So next we have Mephiston, and Mephiston has the best glow up tied with Astaroth in terms of the new model. So Mephiston is the chief librarian of the Blood Angels. You can see him here. He has this kind of, I don't know what you would call this band with all of these little medical syringes with blood in them. His power sword, he has this billowing red cape and a plasma pistol. He looks very beast-like in this model, which I don't know if that was intentional or not. I don't really think the Blood Angels are meant to look bestial. I think that's more of the Space Wolves, but nonetheless, it looks very cool, and he has his pale blonde hair. Now, he actually has the exact same armor as Astaroth does, however, I did something a little bit different. I painted the undertone, or like the undersuit of his armor, the same red as I did for Astaroth. However, I painted his chest piece this kind of skin tone, since it's based on human muscle and stuff. I personally think it's really cool. I've gotten some mixed results from the people down in my hobby shop. So let me know what you think. Do you like this? Do you prefer just the plain red like Astaroth? Or does it not really matter to you one way or another? So that is it for the 4 named characters. Definitely the best models that I have bought for my Blood Angels in quite some time. So we will start over here on the left. So here we have my Assault Intercessors, and as you can see, I have gotten a lot more of these guys, and they are by far my favorite Space Marine model. So let me just find one for you. So Assault Intercessors are basically what I think of the default when it comes to a Space Marine. I know the standard Space Marine is just your normal Intercessor, but personally to me, it's the Assault Intercessor. So they are extremely aggressive, extremely fast. They rush into close quarter combat with a bolt pistol in one hand and a chain sword in the other. And oh my god, are these guys absolutely lethal. They will cut you down piece by piece. Now, with what I have here and what I have already, I believe I far exceed the number that I could actually legally play, but nonetheless, I love them all the same. Moving over, next we have the Sanguinary Guard. So in the first video, we saw the Sanguinary Guard, and I only had 5 of them, and I thought that I should at least get 5 more just to make one full squad. So the Sanguinary Guard are the elite of the elite of the Blood Angels. They are bodyguards to some of the higher-ups. They were originally bodyguards to Sanguinius himself, and currently serve as bodyguards and protectors to Dante, who is the chapter master. I forgot to mention that when I was talking about Dante. So, while they are bodyguards, they still do serve in active combat. They don't just sit around as glorified sentries. So they have this very ornate golden helmet with this power blade, and they each have these wings as well as a jump pack. So they are extremely, extremely fast and agile. And another one that I want to point out is this guy, who is one of the ones who has a banner with him. This is used to rally units and to boost their morale. So while he doesn't have any kind of gun or firearm, he just has his sword and his banner, and that's really all he needs. These units are the definition of quality over quantity. Even having 10 of these is probably way too overkill, but I just wanted to get some more just to kind of even it out. So our next unit type is one that I only have 5 of, and I previously only had 5, but that's well enough because they make up for it in their skill. These are the Stern Guard veterans, and these are some of the best soldiers in the Blood Angels. While they do wield both melee and firearms, they do specialize in long-range combat. However, they are famous for their adaptability and ability to think on the fly and quickly adapt to any situation, making them one of the best units in terms of flexibility. So again, they are a unit that is quality over quantity. Having 10 is pretty good as it is. Also, I thought I'd just show you this guy because 1, he has a melter, and 2, he has this wing on his shoulder pad with a bloody teardrop, which is so cool. So next up we have the Infiltrators. So these guys are really good at sneaking behind enemy lines and just causing chaos and havoc among the enemy, as well as being really good reconnaissance units. They are also extremely good at capturing and holding objectives. And these are some of the newer models for the infiltrators, and there's one model that I want to show you in particular that I think is one of my favorite models for the entire Blood Angel army that I have, and that is this guy who has a smoke grenade that he just dropped, and you can see the smoke coming out of it. It's such a small little thing, you know, it's so minute, but it just adds so much character to this model. Anytime that I am playing a game and I am using infiltrators, I always use this guy just because of how cool he looks. So they are very good at sneaking around and causing havoc. So next we just have your standard intercessor space marine. So these guys are just your run-of-the-mill average space marine. They don't have anything special. They don't excel at anything. These are just your typical grunts on the front line guys. They have bolters. They don't have any special armors or skills. They are just frontline troops. And then over here we have yet another squad of 5 intercessors. I just swapped these into different groups of 5 just because I painted them separately. So they are the exact same. I'm not going to spend much time on them at all, as I already mentioned what the intercessors are. They are just your bog standard space marine grunt, front of the line soldier. Not bad by any means, but not great. They each have a bolter, not any kind of special bolter or anything like that. Just a standard bolter with the standard Tacticus armor. This guy here, you can see there's a little half winged skull on that one. That was because I attempted to put the transfer on and it broke halfway through, so I only ended up getting half of it. But I actually think it looks cooler like that. It looks like that maybe it was worn off in battle or something. And then this one is, I'm assuming is meant to be the sergeant, as he has a black shoulder pad, some purifier seals, some purity seals, and some purity seals on his bolter, and his bolter is the only one with an actual scope. And just in case you did not know or don't know much about the Blood Angels, a black shoulder pad indicates a sergeant, which is just a cool little detail. There's a whole bunch of little color details to the Blood Angels armor, which indicates their rank and their role and stuff like that. That's why standard units have red helmets, close quarters units have yellow, and heavy weapons and support units have blue. But that is it for the standard intercessors. Let's move on. So next we have Death Company, and I have quite a bit to say about Death Company because they are some of my favorite units, and even more so after some of the stuff I've bought. So I have multiple different units here that are Death Company. So the first and standard one that I have are Death Company Jump Pack Intercessors. So they are basically assault intercessors with jump packs, meaning they are much faster and they are able to soar in the air and gain verticality against the enemy. So they can run in at super speed because they are using their jetpack to essentially propel them forward, slice you in half with your chainsword, and then fly up into the air and then dive you with it. So these guys are so cool. I absolutely love them. And as you can see, they are Death Company, so they have the black armor as well as the red crosses. So I have about 5 of these guys, But these are the standard unit that I purchased for my addition to my army for my death company. So there are some other units, but first I want to show you guys this. So this is my third drop pod. So if you saw the first video, you would have seen that I had two drop pods and both of them were red. One of them was pure red, one of them was red with a little bit of black. This one is a Death Company drop pod. So this one is used exclusively for Death Company units. That's not a rule or anything, that's just how I use it. This is, if I use Death Company guys, I use them in this. And I just think it's so cool and adds a lot of atmosphere and character to my army. But the two most interesting units that I have made for my new Death Company army, or my new additions to my Death Company segment of my army, are these two guys right here. So this is a Primaris lieutenant. Now, he is just a standard lieutenant, doesn't have any special type of armor or anything. However, he is a Death Company lieutenant. So, as you can see, his armor is black, coated in blood, coated in these red crosses. His sword is slick with the blood of enemies. He has completely fallen to the Black Rage. And I just thought that for someone like me who really likes Death Company, having command structures for them would be something that's really cool. Even if they can't be used properly, just to have them, even if I end up using them as just standard Death Company units, I think just having them there just adds a lot of character. But the most important one is this guy. So this is a Gravis captain who has fallen to the Black Rage and is now a Death Company captain in Gravis armor. So, for those of you who don't know, Gravis armor is one of the three types of armors that the Space Marines, or the Primaris Space Marines have. There is Tacticus, which is your standard. There is Phobos, which is lighter, faster, but slightly weaker. And then there is Gravis, which is heavier, slower, but adds so much more protection. But Gravis units can deal so much more damage in close quarters. So I thought him for my Death Company captain would be a great choice. I spent a good deal of time going over the stats of all of the different captains and their armor, and I eventually came to the conclusion that this is the best one. And also just because I think he looks the coolest. So he has his red cloak, he has the red crosses on his knees, he has his red gauntlet, the sigil on his chest is covered in blood, and his chain sword is covered in blood also. So now, I know I cannot use him as a Gravis captain while in Death Company. I can only use him as just a Death Company captain, but like I said, just having him there just adds so much character. And again, this is actually one of the ones that I did do the base for. I know I always say that I don't do my bases, but recently I've started to. So that is Death Company, and they are easily the part of these new additions that I am most excited about. So next we have our normal jump pack intercessors, or your vanguard intercessors, whichever term you prefer. So these guys are the same as the first type of unit that I showed you for Death Company, only they have not fallen to the Black Rage. So they have your yellow helmet for close quarters. They have the massive jump packs, and they wield both bolt pistols and melee weapons. In this guy's case, he has a power axe. There are some others here. This guy is a captain, and you can see, it's hard to see because the sword is over his little crest, but yeah, he has a more up-to-date jump pack, but still the old helmet. I just thought that was a really cool kind of mesh of all the generations of the Space Marines. So I won't spend too much time on them since we kind of already covered them in Death Company, but all the same, I think they are so cool. So next up we have my Blade Guard veterans. So in part 1, I thought that I had 6 Blade Guard veterans, but it turns out I actually only had 3, and the other 3 were lieutenants that just happened to have the shields. So I decided to get some more. So I have a couple of different model types here. So first off, we have our standard Blade Guard. So this is him here. I apologize, I don't know why it looks so dark on camera. I assure you, he is in fact red and not, mud brown. But he has his shield, he has his robes, and his power sword. But to me, the more interesting ones are these guys. So these guys are a lot more relaxed looking, and they have a lot more to do with their robes. Specifically someone like this who doesn't even have his sword equipped, he just has a bunch of stuff dangling off his shield while he is pointing. I'm assuming this is the Blade Guard equivalent of that one Wojak meme, but yeah, I really like these guys. I absolutely love melee combat for my Space Marines. That's one of the reasons why I chose the Blood Angels. So having a good amount of these guys, so I now have 9, which is loads for this kind of unit. But before we move away from the Blade Guard, there is one more very important unit that we need to talk about, and that is the Blade Guard Ancient. So he functions basically very similar to the standard Blood Angel Ancient, except he primarily and almost exclusively focuses on the Blade Guard, giving them all kinds of buffs and essentially buffing them in every single way possible, giving them damage multipliers and force multipliers of all kinds. He is also very good at capturing objectives, but he is a very, very vital unit if you plan on running a lot of Blade Guard. Like I said, I now currently have 9. I would not field 9. I would maybe only field 3 or 6. But if I was going for like a full melee build in a game, this guy would definitely be part of it. So his model is also really interesting. So this is the Blood Angel version, meaning that I just painted him like a Blood Angel. So he doesn't have a helmet, but he has like a half scarf, almost like a Judicar. And his sword is also like a Judicar. But the most important and probably the most standout thing is his banner or flag or whatever you want to call it, which is a human skeleton, or at least the top part of a human skeleton. Reminds me a lot of the Primaris Captain with the shield with the skeleton on it, but not quite as intimidating, though it is still pretty intimidating. So yeah, that is this guy. You can also see that he is mostly covered in robes rather than actual armor. And yeah, so that is it for the Blade Guard. Next we have the Reavers. So the Reavers are kind of an interesting unit. So first off, they look really, really cool. They have the yellow helmet, which signifies they are a close quarter unit, and they have this half skull face paint on their helmet. And their role is essentially they have Phobos armor on. So Phobos armor is the one that is lighter, faster, and silent, but is significantly weaker. So these guys are stealth units. You send these guys in stealthily to sneak up on the enemy and attack them. Now, that does not usually end well or work well in actual gameplay, but in concept they are a great idea, and I just love them just for their design. I like the helmet, I like the face paint, or helmet paint, I like the massive knives. You know, to put this in perspective, I was looking at this, and this knife is essentially the same size as one of my Death Corpsmen, which is just so funny that to this guy, you know, that's a knife, whereas this is essentially a sword as big as a man. But yeah, and they do also wield bolters, not storm bolters or bolt pistols, but they do wield full-on bolters, so they are capable of firing and engaging in gunfights. So it's not just, you know, cloak and dagger stuff. Over here we have our guys with heavy plasma cannons. I don't really have too much to say about them because we covered them in the original video. These are essentially, they are not hellblasters, they are just souped up plasma rifles that need to be connected to a pack to be able to function. Just a little pro tip, if you are ever using these guys and or a Hellblaster squad, have an apothecary with them because they have the habit of blowing themselves up, but they are able to do some massive damage. So that is these guys. And next we have the Incursors. So the Incursors are fated forever in the Warhammer community to always be confused with the Infiltrators, which I myself am guilty of. So the main difference is, so they have quite a lot in common, but at the same time quite a lot that is different. So they both are units that are able to use stealth and sneak in amongst the enemy and cause chaos and confusion within the ranks. However, whereas the Infiltrators will report on the enemy's reconnaissance, conduct reconnaissance and report on the enemy and then report back to command, the Incursors don't do that. They just go in and just start slitting throats. So very similar to the Reavers, but they have a little bit more in terms of gathering intel, which is very cool. Again, these guys were the Phobos armor. Essentially any unit that is dealing with sneaking or fast movement or stealth is a Phobos lad. So this is him here. And you can tell that this is an Incursor by the little computer thing. I don't even know what you would call that. The little green screen box on his shoulder. But yeah, they wield melee weapons, they wield pistols, they wield bolters. Let me see if there's another one I can find. You can see this guy here who's about to throw a knife. Such a cool model. I will say, I know some people don't like them. I really like these expressive models. So that is it for the Incursors. Now here we have a variety of command units. So these are captains and lieutenants. So I didn't want to put them separately. I just thought I would put them together and we will go through them one by one. So we will start with this guy. This is a lieutenant in Phobos armor. So he is really good, very sneaky, very stealthy, but his main buff is not just buffing units, but he gives additional buffs to other units in Phobos armor. So for commanding units like Reavers or Infiltrators or Incursors, this guy is going to be a great benefit to have leading them. Again, all of those units have Phobos armor, so he buffs Phobos armor more than he does. And like I said, he still does buff all other types of Marines, but he just buffs Phobos units a little bit better. Next, we have this lieutenant. So this just is a standard Blood Angel lieutenant. I just got this guy. I know I'm drowning in lieutenants, which I'm sure is Games Workshop's plan, but I just really liked the design of him. I like the winged shoulders, I like the kind of bits of fabric flapping in the wind, and I think he is just a really solid model. So he has a bolt pistol, he has a little symbol on his back, really solid unit. Nothing special per se about him, as he is just a standard lieutenant. Doesn't do much of anything in terms of buffing particular units like the Phobos lieutenant. Next, we have our first captain that is not fallen to Black Rage. So this guy I saw and I had to pick him up. This design is incredible, with the swirling cloak, the sword, and the heavy bolter at the ready, with the golden helmet and blazing green eyes. I think I did a really good job painting this guy. I always try my best to paint every single Marine and every single unit in all of my armies, but for captains and lieutenants, I really try and make them stand out, and make them look, as important as they are. But yeah, again, he is just a normal captain, does not have a special talent or a special type of armor. He just has the standard Tacticus armor. But yeah, I love him to bits all the same. So up next is one of the more interesting units. This is the Titan Lieutenant. So he is really interesting design-wise. So first off, he has slain a bunch of Tyranids to the point that he is actually wearing some of their carapaces on his armor, specifically his shoulders. He has a knife in one hand and a bigger knife in the other, with blood dripping off. So I really like this design. I think it's really cool seeing a Space Marine kind of not just take trophies from their enemies, but actually incorporate it into their armor. And yeah, there isn't really a reason in terms of tactical reason why I bought this unit. I just thought that he looked cool, and having the Tyranid armor just kind of sold me on it. So let's continue. So next is a very interesting unit, which I actually did not know existed until very recently when I bought him and painted him. So this is a captain in Gravis armor with a jump pack and wings. So he has a lot going on for him, so let's have a good hard look at him. I don't know why he looks like he's painted black in this. He is just painted dark red. So first off, he has a thunder hammer, which is normally used by the Terminators, but you know, Gravis armor is essentially, we have Terminator armor at home. Then he has his jump pack, and then he has his wings. Now, I actually cannot tell if these wings are legitimate or if they are just for ornamentation, but nonetheless, he is really cool. So he buffs, similar to how the Phobos Lieutenant buffs units in Phobos armor. This guy buffs units wearing the Gravis armor. But since he's a captain, these buffs are a lot better. As well as that, he also buffs units that use jump packs, such as jump pack intercessors, which are over there. So running him with any kind of either Gravis or jump pack unit is something that will be very, very useful. And yeah, so we have one more to go, and I think my favorite of the whole bunch, since it's kind of a kit bash. So for our final command unit, and probably my favorite, just based on the design as well as the little kit bash that I did to him, we have the Captain with Jump Pack. So he is magnificent. It's kind of hard to see the details just because of the shadows. So he has his helmet, which has lots of ornamental detail on it. You can see that he kind of has these two magnetic eyes that are green, which contrasts very well to the darker green of his actual eye lens in his helmet, with a plasma pistol in one hand and a power blade in the other. And you can see that he's jumping off on this base, ready to take off. And on the back, you can see his jump pack. Now, the kit bash that I did for this was I got some wings that I just had laying around, and I thought they would be perfect for him, and I honestly think this might be one of my favorite models in my army. Looking at the back, so the wings begin in gold on either side and then kind of spiral off into, shoot off into this kind of pale gray blue color, which is just really nice. But yeah, this guy, again, he buffs units that, he buffs all units since he's a captain, but he especially buffs units with jump packs. So if you're using any kind of jump pack and you have one of these guys, then absolutely I would suggest using him. Now, if you like these wings, please let me know in the comments. I really hate saying that stuff because I sound like a typical YouTuber. But let me know and I will let you know where I bought them if you are interested. So that is it for our command units. Hello everyone, this is Crimson from the future here. So I just wanted to update this video a little bit. So it has been about maybe a month and a half since I recorded that video, the updated showcase to my Blood Angels army. But since I made that video, I have started to kit bash a single unit, and I have just finished, so I wanted to show him to you. And he is the Judica. Here he is here. So the Judica is, I've talked about on my channel before, niche units. The Judica is as niche as they come. His main ability is to do with time, and the way that affects the gameplay is that if you have a Judicator on the field, that you will always go first in the shooting phase, which gives you quite a good bit of an advantage. Another thing about the Judica that I find to be very interesting is he is actually capable of leading multiple types of Space Marines into battle, which usually is only reserved for lieutenants and captains, but now the Judica can do it too. He can lead units such as standard intercessors all the way up to the heavily armored and super tanky Blade Guard veterans for a melee-based unit. I really like that about this guy, just the fact that he has so much range, despite being such a niche unit. They really did try to give you a benefit to including him in your army. Now on to the actual kit bashing progress of this unit. So, for those of you who don't know, the standard Judica does not have a helmet and just has a little half scarf around the bottom of his face. That is not a bad unit, but personally it's not for me as someone who always makes sure that all of their units have helmets. So, to make him fit in a bit more with the Blood Angels, I gave him the helmet of a Sanguinary Guard with the blood drop shaped rubies embedded in this little kind of pseudo crown on his head, as well as then a combination of a standard Astartes armor and some robes underneath. As for what he is holding, in this hand he is holding some kind of incense burner, and then in this hand he has some kind of weapon or tool. Presumably this is what he uses to slow down time. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say about the Judica, just to keep it quick so we can get back to the actual video. And I genuinely think the Judica might be the nichest of the nichest units available for the Space Marines. Anyway, back to the video. So next up we have the heroes of the chapter. Now, as far as I am aware, this is a unit that is exclusive to the Ultramarines. However, I bought some of the Ultramarine ones and repainted them. And there's one unit in here which might be my new favorite unit, or at least in my top 3. So I'll just give you a quick little show of each of them. So this guy is here with his heavy bolter. He has a chain going up to actually feed it his ammunition. Then moving on, we have this guy who is just a standard high-ranking member of the now Blood Angels. He is still a commander despite only having a standard bolter. That's why his helmet is gold. But yeah, let's continue. So next we have this guy. So again, a very heavy bolter look, lots of robes, lots of gold ornamentation. I really, really like this guy. I think he turned out great. Now, it's not my best paint job, I admit. I painted this when I was very tired. I think I painted him at like 3:30 a.m. But, you know, it's just the nature of how things are. And our last guy is this guy. Now, he looks very similar to a Blade Guard, but he isn't a Blade Guard. He is just a lieutenant. So he has his weapon kind of under his arm, which is a melter, as well as a bolt pistol. And yeah, I think this is really, really cool. But there is one unit in this group which has become my new favorite unit for the Blood Angels, or at least my top 3. And that is the But there is one unit that is part of this group which has become one of my top 3 favorite models and uses in terms of gameplay, just because of how amazing and funny and cruel it is. and that is the Apothecarian Biologist. Now, do not let the name Apothecary fool you. This man is not a healer. This man is a bioterrorist. He has this container filled with something, and he uses it to cause havoc on the battlefield, releasing all kinds of sicknesses, illnesses, plague, and extremely weakening the enemy, if not killing them outright. What I love about this unit is not only all the stuff that I just said about him, but he is so niche that most people do not even account for him as a possibility. So when you show up to the table and you pull up this guy, your opponent is standing there or sitting there looking like, oh my god, what am I going to do? This man is going to give us the bubonic plague and we're all gonna die. But that's part of the reason why I love him. He is absolutely evil. He relishes in torture instead of healing. He still does heal, don't get me wrong. He still is an apothecary. But he is very far from what you would consider to be an apothecary. And lastly, before we move in to our Gravis units and heavy armor units, we are going to have a quick little look at our Primaris chaplain. So I do have a chaplain in Terminator armor, which is all fine and dandy. However, this is just your standard chaplain. So he costs way less, is able to move a lot faster, but is more susceptible to damage. I adore this guy. The chaplain is one of my favorite models in all of the Imperium. I love the Grey Knight. I love the Grey Knight version. I love the Blood Angels version. I just think that he is so cool. And especially with this skull face with the head pulled up holding a cane of all things. Like, oh my god. But yeah, okay, so let's get on to the final stretch of the large heavy units in Gravis armor. So next we have something that is not quite a full-on heavy unit, but it does have some heavy weapons, and that is a tactical squad. This is actually my first tactical squad, and it came in a group of 10, so I think that's a really good number. So the tactical squads operate a little different than intercessors. They have slightly different weapons and usually are much older models. So this one here has a just standard bolter. Then we have these two. So this guy just has a chainsword. He is missing his hand. I don't know where that went, but let's just imagine that he got too careless with the blade. And the other one is this guy here who just has a melter, who also, I believe, is some kind of captain or lieutenant based on the little ridge on his back. But the best unit in this entire tactical squad is this fellow right here. So this guy is sporting a multi-melter, and he doesn't even have a helmet to protect his face. This guy is death incarnate. If you are even so much as a tiny bit too close to him, he is so capable of just demolishing anything and everything, and I love it. And I also love that he does not have a helmet, that he is wielding this massive, dangerous gun with zero face protection. So cool. So next we have the Terminators, and these are kind of split up into two little subgroups. So on the left-hand side, we have the Assault Terminators. So an Assault Terminator is a Terminator that is much more aggressive and wields usually a hammer, sometimes thunderclaws, but usually a hammer. and carries a shield into battle. That's usually the shtick for these kinds of Terminators, like this guy here, you know, hammer, shield. This guy here, claws, no shield. This guy's also a captain, by the way, which is pretty cool. And then this guy is also a captain, so there are a lot of Terminator captains in this group. Then over here, we have the standard Terminators. However, these Terminators forego their melee weapons and choose to have firearms. So some of them, like this chap here, just has a standard bolter. And a lot of them have the exact same weapon. This guy just has it lowered. However, this guy is wielding a Gatling gun. I cannot remember what the name for this is in Warhammer 40k, but it is devastating. You're able to put on so much damage on a single target area. It is incredible. And I really wish that Terminators with Terminators with guns got a lot more appreciation than they do, because most people just think of Terminators as people who cannot die, slowly marching towards you and willing to skin you alive. But yeah, now there is one other Terminator here that I want to talk about. Now, this is a Terminator captain, but he is slightly different. He is not your standard mold of a Terminator captain. This is an older mold of a Terminator captain. So first off, he does not have a helmet on. He has a rebreather and just a shock of cropped blonde hair. You can see his small bolter. But more importantly, he has this massive power sword, so he is going to be so dangerous to go up against, which is why I love him, and I usually have him leading any kind of Terminator squad that I can. Even if there are others that outrank him, I give him command just because of how cool he looks. And yeah, that is the Terminators. So next up we have two very similar units, so we are going to cover them together. So the first one is my beloved Centurions. So Centurions wear a suit of armor that is not quite Terminator armor, but much heavier than your standard Tacticus or Gravis armor. These serve as extreme close fire support. And just look at this guy, look at the size of him. These are the guns that are mounted to the back of his hand. I want to say that again. He has a mega bolter on the back of his hand. And then on this side, he has pretty much the same thing. These guys are great. I feel like they don't get the love that they deserve. I think these guys are so special, and I adore them to bits. And the other unit that is similar is the Aggressor. So the Aggressor's job is essentially just to walk forward towards the enemy, constantly spewing fire from his wrist-mounted cannons. These guys are no joke whatsoever. They have small little missiles up here. They are equipped with stone bolters and regular bolters and essentially any weapon that they want, as long as it's a gun, and they will go in and whatever is in their way will die. These guys are pretty cool. To be honest, I am not the biggest fan of them. I much prefer the Centurion, but still, this guy is so awesome. And finally, for our infantry, we have our Infernus squad. So, the Infernus squad look like this, and again they have the blue helmet to mark that they are heavy weapons support units. They go around with heavy flamers and they burn enemies to death with a spray of ignited promethium. Promethium is essentially like super petrol in Warhammer, and it is devastating to say the least if you have read any of the Warhammer books and have seen what happens when this is unleashed. Such a good weapon. I absolutely love it, and yeah, I think it was a good final bit to end this part of the tour on. So now we're on to vehicles, and we are just going to start with our standard dreadnought. Now, this guy is not a specific type of dreadnought, he's not a special dreadnought or anything like that, not even a venerable dreadnought, just a normal dreadnought. And I have all the parts that I can swap out his arms at will. I have them magnetized, but I think this combination works really well. The Gatling gun in one hand and the claw for melee in the other. Just a great little combination. The Gatling to mow guys down at range, and if anyone gets too close, the claw can quickly and savagely essentially crush them into paste. But yeah, I really like this guy. Next, we have a vehicle that we don't really see that much of nowadays. Now, it is still legal, but a lot of people don't really use it, and I'm not sure why. I personally love it. So this is the Whirlwind. This is the Adeptus Astartes version of an artillery vehicle, which, if you know me from my Krieg video, I love artillery, so this was a must-buy once I discovered its existence. So you can see here that it has these twin batteries filled with missiles, as the canopy of the actual vehicle is nice and dark red with the occasional Blood Angel symbol and these two little blue hazard lights at the front. It is absolutely devastating to rain down from afar, especially if you're going against a weaker army, say like Guard or Eldari or something like that, but I still love this thing nonetheless. The next two vehicles are vehicles that we have all seen before, but these are my first ones to add to my Blood Angel collection. So we are going to start with the humble Rhino. So the Rhino is just a standard troop transport vehicle. Nothing more, nothing less. I believe it can hold 12 people if I remember correctly. It doesn't have that much in the way of defense apart from its single gunner occupant up at the front and these teeth here, which can be used to either ram or to attach some kind of device to help clear the way forward. I do really like this. Now, it's not my favorite vehicle, but it is just one of those things that for collecting an army, it's good to have. And for our final unit for this video, we have my newest addition to my army, my Blood Angels Land Raider Redeemer. So this is not the Crusader, which I have for my Grey Knights. This is the Redeemer, which doesn't really make that much of a difference if I'm being completely honest. So this serves as both a gun vehicle for heavy fire support as well as a transport, being able to transport 12 units. So it has these twin guns on the front that have multiple layers. I believe those are 6 bolters on either side. We also have this twin cannon in the front, these 2 grenade launchers, and of course our trusty gunner on a heavy bolter. So yeah, it is a really cool vehicle. One of my favorites, and I loved it when I had it for the Grey Knights, and I loved it when I have it now. But that is going to be it. So, thank you so much for watching. This has just been a quick little video. I just wanted to update you guys on all of the new models that I got, all of the additional models that I got, and yeah, I personally think out of all of these, my favorite is either the Biologist, my favorite is either the Apothecarian Biologist, just because he is an evil bastard, or the remodels of the named Blood Angels characters. I absolutely love them, and I think they are great, and they bring so much life and spirit to this army. So, that is going to be it. I hate saying this stuff, but I am curious. In the comments, let me know which type of unit did you find the most interesting. For me, it was definitely the Biologist, but there are probably some people who think otherwise, and I'm genuinely curious to hear. That's not me trying to, bait interaction. I'm just genuinely curious to see what you guys have to say. So that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Crimson, and I will see you guys in the next one.